All right, let's hear this.
Is there a possibility of doing away with immunity clause?
No, to start with, it wasn't immunity clause that made the governor to be able to do what he was alleged to have done. Because the governor will have immunity, What of the policemen he came with? What of other people he came with? Do they have immunity? These are just the issues. So if, for instance, people around him knows that they will immediately be arrested for their conduct, because that's why I said all of us being accountable to the law. If somebody who has immunity asks you to do something that is wrong, and you go and do it, the immunity will not extend to you.
True.
The immunity will stop at the government or at the governor. Then there are how many people that have immunity in Nigeria? Just 36 plus 1 or plus 2. 36, okay, plus the deputies. You have less than 100 persons that have immunity in Nigeria. Let these 100 people continue until their immunity lapses. But let the next person they ask, most times they don't, if they steal now, they don't steal with their money. They are with their hands. They don't carry all this money.
So this question is stripping governors of immunity. How realistic is that? And this is coming from the whole issue with EFCC versus Yahaya, Bello. We're just talking about the almost $1 million school fees that he paid directly from allegedly from government treasury into the school, some of it which has been refunded by the school. How realistic is this? Does that really stop these people from stealing anyway?
Yeah, but point of departure of that, isn't it funny? You don't want America. These are some of the reasons why they don't want America in Nigeria. That's cool
Right?
that before that money to EFCC is the American school, of course. There are standards there. There are standards there. Yes, the one would launder dirty money like that. American system has a way of going off on you. The alarm will go off, and that money will be caught and returned to where it rightfully belongs. So, what we're saying here is that immunity clause in itself, what does it stand for? In the case of Nigeria, it has assisted the system to prop up demigods, pseudo-authoritarians, and outright despots. But for immunity, the kind of things that we witnessed under Buhari, the deliberate pauperization, impoverishment of the vast majority of Nigerian citizens, people having to jump into the lagoon and committing suicide because of the shenanigans perpetrated using Emefiele, whatever, as proxy for all those crazy monetary policies of that time. But for immunity, you will look at Emefiele himself. I don't know where CBN governor has this immunity. It was doing all kinds of things because of the protection extended to him by the office of Buhari. Look at what happened in River State, where Jesse Wike turned himself to Idi Amin, the entertainer of Nigerian folks, as if we lived in 1970s Uganda. Look at what immunity afforded all kinds of people to do everywhere. Nigeria has been violated, and people not minding the strongest office in the land, which is that of a citizen. So, immunity. With what Ododo, the governor of Kogi State, used that immunity to do, to assist unlawfully a suspect to avoid arrest, to jump
arrest.
Yeah, to jump arrest or to run from to become a fugitive from the law. Would you say, in truth, would you say immunity is something that ought to be protected, that ought to continue? I think people should think should think clearly about this, should marshal their arguments about it. I have my doubts about the sustainability and continued relevance of immunity at this point. But I've not yet come to that conclusion that it must be taken away completely. because you also want
How
to be
realistic
able,
is that, though?
it is realistic. It
It's
is
realistic. Have
realistic.
we ever heard of that in history? Immunities for governors taken away.
Why not? Were they born with immunity? They were not born with immunity now. It's something that is built over time, even
But
within
it's for the
a
office now. It's to protect the office, isn't it?
but does the protection of that office also extend to deny people the right to what's it called to liberties and their franchise rights, their suffrage? Do you know how many people Yahaya Bello used his so-called immunity craze to deny the opportunity of um, exercising their suffrage rights in Kogi State while he was there? Look at the case of Jason Wike. He virtually looted the treasury, paying so-called 200,000 political appointees who became his PAs. With 200,000, which other voting electorate do you need? Close to 200,000 special assistants being given maybe amounts ranging from 50,000 naira a month to 300,000. It means votes had been bought in advance. Let us do the analysis. These were things that happened in Nigeria, and not just in Nigeria of 3 years ago. We're talking of a few months ago. And this becomes the reality of the future. Although who could use the paraphernalia of all to deny people the
Did the call try to come in?
Yeah, a call. But
Okay, you're back now
we can
because
ignore that.
it ceased your audio for a second. Continue. You're back now.
Yes. So what we're saying is that in the hands of people like Ododo and questionable Nigerian leaders who are fascinated by this, what's it called? This vision of becoming despot in their locality.
Okay.
Why should we continue to have immunity unchallenged? So, like I said, I've not come to that conclusion yet. Yeah, excuse me. It's something that I'm still struggling with in my subconscious. Yes.
So for
it's
me,
an uncharted territory.
right?
It's uncharted territory. Even the fact that let me bring this in from our American climb here. The fact that the Supreme Court justices in America could bring themselves that low, discussing would immunity be able to cover this if a president orders assassination of a political opponent and all that. You see, the way they pushed this envelope, in Nigeria it was pushed. It was something that was initially crafted to protect Sani Abacha alone. This so-called vision, dream of life presidency. And that is what has now been extended to these people. Now the Supreme Court in the US is debating the same thing. In the case of Donald Trump leading January 6th insurrection. And they want to find a way because majority of them on the Supreme Court is devotees and appointees. And look at Clarence Thomas dangling that hypothesis, the argument. So what should happen? And forgetting that Donald Trump has said, if you stood in the middle of Manhattan and fires at whoever, that nothing will happen in America. We cannot continue to allow people to gauge our temperature that way about the future. If we get to this kind of sorry situation, how are we going to take it? We are not going to take it lightly, and that is why nobody should continue to protect this craze about immunity that we are still looking at as something that may no longer be desirable. It is not sustainable because it makes some people to see themselves as being gods, presiding over the affairs of less mortals. And nobody is God. We are all human beings, for God's sake.
Okay. All right. Speaking of immunity, I have one quick story that we need to cover. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications so you're notified whenever we go live. And Check out this next segment. We'll be right back.